Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Together We Blend with Hines and Mayo. I'm one of your hosts, Jamal, aka Maurice. This is my beautiful wife, Crystal. We are here basically to give you a little insight about us, while also discussing topics that hopefully could help others in their relationships, or people who may have faced some of the struggles that we faced and overcame by the grace of God. And here we go. Wish us luck. Episode 1.
Action.
Hi, baby.
Hi.
You look lovely tonight.
Thank you. I like your sweatshirt.
Fellas, always compliment your woman. Trust me. Thank me later.
Especially when she's 6 months pregnant.
Especially when she's 6 months pregnant. We probably should have led with that.
Yeah.
How you feeling? I duped you into your first podcast.
I know. I don't know how you ended up getting me here, but here we are.
Here we are. Are you nervous?
No, actually.
No?
It's just a conversation with you.
Okay, so I'm the only one that's sweating. Is the heat on? All right. Well, one of my goals with this, for one, as I mentioned 100 times, I enjoy talking to you.
Same.
We've been in so many settings where, whether with friends or with strangers, where we're sharing our stories or giving advice. So I figured, why not do it on a platform?
Right.
And share it with the world, and maybe even help some people along the way, or give people courage to face certain things. This world isn't
sunshine and rainbows.
Right. And they don't exactly always embrace, especially interracial couples, as we see. Shout out to Dr. Umar. So maybe we can
help people navigate that a little. I think we've, like I said, it's been a roller coaster. So I think we've really, tried to navigate that a little. Now we know a little bit better, too, how to navigate it than when we first had certain issues, because,
right.
I was white and you were black. It was, now I think
you're white?
I know.
Hold on, turn
the cameras off.
Turn the cameras off.
But I think, it's important, because you see it more, and we always high five each other when we see an interracial couple, because we feel so happy that
I get excited.
Yeah. But I always wonder about their struggles too, because I know between us, that was never a struggle,
right,
at all. It was we didn't even realize it almost
at all. It
was just everyone else around us.
Right, 100%. But yeah. I believe that's how it is when your souls communicate.
Exactly. Yeah, we really didn't even realize it. Yeah.
Right. When I would come across certain people, and they're like, so yeah, bro, what's it like being with a white girl? And I'm like, okay, first of all, she's Middle Eastern.
Yeah, she's not white.
She's not white. And one of the things I always tell people is I see character, not color. And that's with anybody. You know what I'm saying? If you're a good person and we connect,
right,
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I've never seen color.
Yeah.
It wasn't oh, wow, dating a white girl. Let's see how this goes.
Right.
Hope she seasons her food. But
we'll talk about the food another time.
We'll talk about it. Yeah. The food is great. Everything's great.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
What about you? What's your goal? What do you want to do with this?
I think just really help other people navigate, and not just interracially. I think just relationally. Yeah, I think relationally, we, thank God, have come a long way. We still have a lot of work to do for our family and for each other. But I do think that sometimes hearing about some of the struggles that we've had, you know, it's nice to just take that walk with someone sometimes. And I think us being able to say, like, no, we got through this, and, you know,
you'll
look
get
at us
through
now.
it too.
Yeah, exactly. And especially, too, I think we've really found our beliefs and our faith in God has really helped us in those certain things.
Right, 100%.
And I think that's also very important to relay to people that, you know, you could have 1,010 things going on like we always do, but it should always come back to number one, and that's God. So,
right. Do you feel us sharing a common? I don't even want to call it belief, because it sounds like God may not be real. It's just something we think. Like, so I don't really like calling it a belief, but I'll say a common
like our
faith,
creed or faith.
Yeah. Do you think that helps or plays like a solid role in our relationship? Or
100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I don't mean I grew up in the Catholic Church,
right?
And our core beliefs, I think, are the same. And I think that's the part of Christianity. You know, I rarely go to Catholic church now. It's more, you know, I just like listen to the word. But I think our core beliefs really make a bigger difference in that sense, that we have the same core beliefs of being a good person, you know, being righteous, and really giving it all to God. And you have really helped me to kind of open up to that and come back more into the church, and even just listening to certain things and wanting to be more a part of it, because, you know, it's easy to get removed from that.
Right.
So, yeah, I do think it makes a difference. I think if we didn't have those, even if you weren't maybe a Christian, but you had those same core beliefs that I truly believe in, you know, I think that would hinder us a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, even though I know you say you grew up going to a Catholic church, you had a lot of the you shared a lot of Christian values, like,
because I think it all comes from the same umbrella. The core beliefs about God and Jesus are the same. You know, my differences of how I celebrated versus how you celebrated,
right?
And we've both been to each other's like so-called churches, right?
Right.
Those are, I think, is what difference, like the order of it, and the, you know, whether you were hearing a sermon. And we believed in saints my entire life, like truly, like even like my family, like even my mom will say things to you that I'm sure you pick up on that are the saints, and you guys don't really have that, like in the Baptist Christians, right?
No,
like it wasn't
really.
Yeah. But I think, again, the core beliefs were very
similar,
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could appreciate that. Like, I would watch you, like, you know, not just watch it. And, you know, I always seen that you were very giving, like, very caring. You would give the shirt off your back to somebody in a heartbeat. And, you know, for somebody who wasn't like a regular attendee of church, you
call me out.
No. You were a better example than some of the people I grew up with in the church. So.
Right.
But yeah.
And you also brought that out in me, like, of wanting to be more religious rather than more spiritual, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think with our kids, even now, I think that makes such a difference to be able to teach them the core values.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying it has to be detail word for word, you know, but yeah, I think that does make it. I think if, for example, if you were Muslim, I think that would be very difficult for us to raise we might be able to get along. Actually, I don't know, because I think our values would be so different.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with
I was just using it as an example,
right.
But you know, I think if it'd be hard to raise a child if you didn't have the same beliefs.
Oh, if you just weren't like equally yoked.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You know what? Let's take them all the way back.
Okay.
How we met.
Oh, okay. So We met in 2010, right when I graduated school.
Right.
And I started working. I started working at the hospital that Jamal was working at. But we met. I was a physical therapist in New York, and I started working at the hospital that Jamal was working at, and that is how we met. And I always thought he was so nice and so smart because he was always studying. He was in school and he was always studying. And I just thought it was so intriguing that he was, it's rare to see somebody actually focused on their studies like that, the way I was. So I appreciated it.
So I'm going to give you the truth. She thought I was corny and she thought I was annoying.
No, I never thought you were annoying.
Okay, maybe not annoying. A little bit corny.
I loved it.
She didn't deny that part. I seen her, as you could tell. She had this beautiful, radiant smile, these big brown eyes, this amazing personality. And I think what caught me about you was you were the first person who actually understood me.
It's because I laughed at his stupid jokes.
Correct. All right. For me, a sense of humor is like a huge turn on, and it's not often. Normally I tell a joke, I have to like break it down to people like, no, what I meant was,
right.
And like she was the first person that got it right away. And not only got it, you was always witty and quick with it and would respond right away with something similar in humor. Yeah. And I think that's when I was like, I think we're on to something.
Yeah, that's very true. And coincidentally, if you remember, we both asked one of the girls that I worked with that ended up being very good friends with both of us, right, about each other before we even, started anything between us. Right. So shout out to Shima.
Shout out to Shima. I thanked her. I thanked her at the wedding. I said, this is because of you.
Wedding. Yeah.
I remember when I thought she wasn't going to make it. I was like, no, you're the reason for the season.
Yes, you're the reason we're getting married. You have to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to her and Jameek.
And Jameek, he helped us.
Jameek helped a little bit.
Yeah.
When I almost lost her.
That's another day, a rainy day.
Another story.
Yeah.
Another story. Maybe episode 2.
Yeah. That's where the struggles begin.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So almost 15 years later,
we've now been married for a year and a half.
Yeah, well, hence the shirt.
Yeah. Show that off.
I wish I could say we made it. We need to come out with some merch.
We do. We will.
Eventually, right?
Yeah, with Heinz and mayo.
Yeah. But yeah, last year, June 2nd, 2023, our wedding day. Yeah. Probably best day of my life. That's when you say it's the best day of your life.
It was the best.
Okay, just making sure.
It was the happiest day of my life. It was. One of the best days was when you actually asked me to marry you, though. Oh. Yeah.
I remember the lead up to that. Oh, man. Oh, man.
We had a lot of, I know.
I prayed and prayed.
I know. We were together for a very long time before he actually asked me to marry him, but I always knew that I was planning on spending my life with this man, regardless of whether there was a ring on my finger or not. So,
people ask me. I've had a few of my guy friends ask me, like, how did you know? Or what was the secret? They ask me in like different ways. And one of the things I tell everybody, for us, but I advise people when they do ask me is you gotta have a friendship first.
100%.
That I think that's what really sealed the deal for me. Mm-hmm. When it came to you, you was my friend first, and like I thoroughly enjoyed your company.
Same, yeah.
Without any relations, quote unquote.
Right. No, it's the same here. We always laughed. We got each other. I think you were the only one, especially when I started at the hospital. I think you were one of the only guys that actually looked me in the eye when he spoke to me, to be honest. It was like fresh meat. It was like a feeding frenzy, you know. And I think you were the only one that actually spoke to me and like looked me in the eye.
No, that's not true. Come on.
It's very true. I'm not going to name any names, but it's very true.
We're not going to call them out on
yeah,
the
I'm not going to call
podcast,
them out, but yeah, it was. I think it's very true. And I think that, you know, I was like, oh, okay. He wasn't like a dog that I thought, you know.
Well, rough. Can we edit that?
Please take that out. Take that out, Daniel. Daniel, take that out. But yeah. So we met. Well, we should get into.
I think a lot of guys though.
What?
Everybody. Because you're like you're a dope person in general on top of being beautiful.
No.
You know, and I'm not just saying that because you know I have to. But I think because a lot of guys before I met you, like knew you say, oh no, she's mad cool, like, you know.
Yeah, but it was just different. I think it was very different. I think there was like a click right away with you and I.
Okay.
I think you made me laugh right away, and it wasn't like. I think we were able to, like you said, it was witty and it was banter and it was very, yeah.
Okay. There's going to be a lot of points throughout this podcast that my wife says words that I don't understand or know what they mean. Like I did mention that she's a doctor. So, you know, so define banter.
Like the back and forth between us, you know, the like joking back and forth and, you know, little comments to each other that we would only get and no one else would.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
So, yeah.
That was huge for me.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you know, they'll base relationships or quote unquote love off just purely physical attraction.
Right.
You know, but I've always been big on communication and friendship.
Absolutely.
Like if I can't joke with you or you can't make me laugh, I don't want it.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't want it. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Like, I agree with you.
So that was huge for me.
Yeah. And somebody that can keep up.
100%.
That was big for me.
100%.
Somebody that could actually keep up.
Yeah, because I've dated some people where I had to really just break down. Like, no, get it, because it's ketchup and it's red.
Yeah,
get it?
And they didn't. There
get
wasn't.
It?
Yeah, I know. I had to do that too, and that was. I mean, I think that was a big part of our battle was finally realizing like no one else is. This isn't. We're stupid if we're not together, kind of thing.
Right.
Like, why are we fighting this? You know, like, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. That's how I kind of felt. Like, that's why I, in my head, even before I even ever thought you were going to ask me to marry you, I knew I'm going to spend my life with you because there's no comparison.
When did you know that? Like, come on, for real?
For a long time. I used to call you my husband before you were my husband.
Okay, but when did you know? No.
I think there was a lot of. I think during a lot of our struggles.
Okay.
And I knew when I, you know, during some of our struggles where I was like, I'm not going to leave, so why am I even fighting this?
Okay. All right.
Those were like the real, you know, solid moments, I think, that confirmed a lot of it for me. But also how we came out of our struggles.
Okay.
You know, knowing I was in love with you, that goes back to the first couple of months of knowing each other, you know, and then it just every time something, you know, there were certain events that I think solidified that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What about you? What did you think when you first met me?
I think I told the world that.
You're right, but like when we actually started like speaking.
Oh no, when we spoke, that sealed the deal.
Yeah.
You know, I told you I already thought you was attractive, beautiful. You know, but I think when we actually had a conversation,
right,
I was like, oh no. My first thought was, I really got to spend time with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I just want to hang with you, nothing sexual or anything like that. I wanted to, you know, really get to know you and find out who Crystal was.
Right.
You know, and then when we finally got the opportunity to do that, it was just, it was on from there.
It was hard. I knew it was. I'm a very private person, I would say, and I like my alone time.
Same.
And one of the things was when I realized was I didn't want to leave you.
Okay.
Even though we had like spent like a whole weekend together or whatever it was, like I'm usually ready for my me time, and
right.
I didn't,
Same.
you know, and I like missed you immediately when you left, and I didn't want to leave you, and
right.
that was one of the things that.
Okay. One for me is I'm a big texter. I hate talking on the phone. You know, it's even hard at work when I'm talking to like patients' families. Like I try to get to the point, get off real quick. You know, I could text all day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a writer by nature. And with you, I actually enjoyed being on the phone with you. I enjoyed our conversation. I felt like, all right, when is this over? Are you done yet?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I wouldn't roll my eyes when the phone rang and I saw your
right.
name.
Right, let it go to voicemail and text you back.
Sometimes how it was, yeah. Sorry, give me a sec.
So
yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah, I think that was very similar for me too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was huge for me.
Yeah.
That was huge for me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, our similar interests in food. Which sounds crazy. We both were like the burger and fries
kind of people.
I know.
I also like experiencing new things with you too, and I think that was, you know, I came out of my shell in that sense with those certain things.
You introduced me to a lot of new things.
Middle Eastern food
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't think we mentioned that. Well, in case you guys didn't know,
didn't notice,
I'm black and she's white.
We hope that doesn't deter you from hanging with us.
Please don't unsubscribe. No, Crystal's actually Middle Eastern Lebanese.
I was born in Lebanon in the 80s, where it wasn't, not that it is now, but it wasn't the best place to be living there. So my parents actually moved us to a small island called Cyprus for a few months. Things didn't get better. My sister and I, my sister had to start school, so my father actually brought us over to where his brothers were in Connecticut, and we've been here ever since. So.
And how old were you when you got here?
3.5.
Do you remember anything from like?
My one real memory that actually stuck with me and is kind of like a tribute to my father and him being such like a great man in my eyes was
salute to Mr. Crystal.
To Fred. We'll call him Fred.
Yeah, Fred.
We were in Cyprus. Him and my mother, I guess, made the decision that we should move to America minimally for a year just to put my sister in school. And I was crying because he was leaving us, and I was a kid. It was like my first like real memory, and I was crying because he was leaving us, and he was like, "What can I do to make you feel better?" And I was like, "Just buy me M&Ms." And I don't know why. That's what I wanted. M&Ms? I just wanted M&Ms, and he bought me M&Ms, and then he literally like movie style like walked away, and we saw him getting on a helicopter.
That's crazy.
And it was like, because it was so bad to like get back into the country, and so I don't know how he arranged this, but he got a helicopter and went back to Lebanon to like get our stuff, and then met us back in Cyprus, and then we came to America to, and it was only supposed to be for a year, and we stayed with my grandmother and his brothers, and
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I never get tired of hearing that story. You know that?
Yeah, it was. So that was like my first real memory.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, was that helicopter specifically for him? Because I know Fred was like a war hero in Lebanon.
I'm gonna write a book about him.
You have to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think so. Like, I think he like with the government. I don't know how he did it. Sometimes it's better not to ask.
I think your father is like. I don't even think you know truly who he is. Like, I look at the respect he gets from like the community and just everybody that used to come into his business. And and they have like sort of like this
fear /
like heavy reverence for him, you know. And I'm like, it's like, who is this man
I
for
know.
real?
Yeah, yeah. Well, for a while, and I didn't know this until this is like a whole other conversation, but I didn't know this for a long time. But he couldn't go. Not he couldn't. If he went back to Lebanon, his life was in danger,
right?
Just because of everything that happened.
Right. I remember he mentioned that to me.
Yeah, and he tells me sometimes things now in adulthood, and I'm like, wait, what? Like we had no idea, and we didn't. It was just dad. It was
And I too, I'm sure, as a parent, there's probably some things he probably didn't share about, like when he was in the military.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you how many brains he blew out.
I mean, I think he keeps those close to the vest now.
Right.
He's not much of a talker, anyway.
Yeah. When he talks,
you listen.
You listen. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
You adhere.
I
actually learned that word from Crystal too. My vocabulary has grown so much since we've been together.
Don't marry someone if they can't help you.
This is very true.
Right?
Let that be a tip.
Yeah.
Let that be
this is our tip. I'm strong where he's weak.
There we go.
And he's strong where I'm weak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But which is true. It's like she's
true.
being funny, but I mean it.
No, it is very true.
No, but that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
That's how it should be,
Yeah.
That was another thing I always admired. Just the way you handle things.
Mm.
I grew up in, I don't want to say hostile environment, but I guess you could say there wasn't a lot of emotional intelligence in my upbringing. That wasn't something that was taught to us. We just were taught to react.
Right.
And that's both the men and the women.
In your family.
You know what I mean? So, obviously, as you get older, you start to learn, like, no, wait, this ain't the way to handle situations. Like, you can't go to work and have emotional reactions, like,
right.
Or in your everyday,
right.
One-on-ones with people. So,
but on the other hand, when you have, your control of that, and I have to give credit to your mother, God rest her, is your passion for things.
Okay.
And I think your passion for things definitely comes from your mom and comes from, and sometimes it's just kind of trying to figure out how to relay the message. But your passion and your drive for things, I think, is definitely where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got my love for people from her. I love seeing people happy, and I think that comes. She was that type too.
Yeah,
like she'll give you the shirt off her back just to see you smile.
Yeah,
not even know you, and I find that I have that same attribute. Is
absolutely,
that the word?
Yeah, and it's actually really admirable, and it made me, your generosity and your heart is what made me fall in love with you.
Not once did you mention how handsome I was. I called my wife beautiful about 5 times since we started filming, and not once.
How did I tell you? Our friend Shima, again.
No, I don't want it now.
No. Because
and neither do they.
They want to hear this.
They don't want to hear.
I was in the cafeteria, and I had my tray of food, and I think I was leaving to go throw it out. And this was like one of my first, it's true. It was one of my first interactions with you. I think I was just going to throw out a drink or something. And Jamal like backed up, and he didn't realize I was behind him, and he almost stepped on me.
Yeah, no.
He almost ran me over. And I stopped him with my hands. And I remember thinking, wow.
That was when I was young and in shape. I was in my 20s at that time.
But I remember I said to my friend, I said, I was like flustered after. And that was it.
Back then, I would do at least 25 push-ups a week.
No, come on. No,
like
you were. I mean, I'm still very attracted to you and very much in love with you. But that day, I was like, that was like pure physicality.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny you bring that up, and I know we digress a little bit, but one of the interesting things when we met, once again, shout out to Shima. I hope she watches this.
Hope, yeah.
If not, I'm sending it to her.
Yeah, we're gonna bring her on.
Yeah, that would actually be good. Damn, can we have 3 people?
Well, that's when we get at the table.
We get the table, yeah. I never forget the day when I think by this time it was like the 5th joke you done laughed at. I was like, oh no, that's mine. Gotta have her. And I asked Shima, I said, I was like, hey, I need to talk to you. And she's like, yeah, what's up? I'm like, oh, that girl Crystal. So she steps back, she looks at me, she starts smirking.
Because I had just told her about you.
She didn't tell me till after.
Yeah.
She's like, what about her? I was like, I don't think she, I don't know, likes black guys. So after she finished peeing on herself, laughing. She's like, what? Do she? She's like, it's so funny because she just asked me about you. And that was it. It was all from there.
That was it.
It was all from there.
And it seems like it's all sunshine and rainbows, but it's really not. We've been through a lot to get to where we are. I'm very thankful
Crystal
for it.
snores.
No, shut up.
Sorry.
No, we've been through a lot of ups and downs. It wasn't easy being, especially when we did make things official. It wasn't easy being a black man dating a white woman.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And which is weird, especially
living in the Northeast.
Yeah, in the Northeast. Not only that, we'll still get weird looks in New York City sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is New York City. Like,
doesn't matter.
everybody and everything is here and accepted. Like,
and we're both from cities.
Right.
You know, we weren't from like a little suburb. We were both from larger cities, and we still get.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of cities, I ain't gonna name the city. We're not gonna call anything out.
We don't want to call it out, but we're.
I remember when Crystal first brought me to her hometown, and I'm guilty. I was pretty judgmental. I was like, it's probably like a lot of grass.
He thought it was Greenwich, Connecticut.
I did think it was Greenwich.
And he thought it was Greenwich, and it was far from Greenwich.
It was far from Greenwich.
Far from Greenwich.
So she's like, oh, no. I remember you're like, no, I grew up in the hood. And I'm like, sure you did. Like, and she's, we went to hang out one night in your hometown. I remember when we got off that exit.
Goosebumps.
First of all, I was like, am I home? Is this Yonkers?
And then he locked the doors.
Yeah.
To make sure.
Yeah, I locked the doors.
Yeah, it was.
That red light was taking too long.
Yeah.
I could, how did you come out of there? Like, the way you because you did well for yourself.
Thankfully, yeah.
Even now, I'm sure when you tell patients, you told me a few stories when you told patients
when I tell them where I'm from,
where you're from, they're like, no way.
Yeah. That goes back to, I think, my father's work ethic.
Okay.
One of the biggest things was similar to how you are, is get your grades up, and I don't care about anything else. He really instilled that for me. And my ticket out was my education. That's how I knew. My dad owned a small business for many years. My mom would help him in the business, and then really just was chauffeuring my sister and I around, and homework and dinner and cleaning and et cetera. But I knew my ticket out of that town and my freedom was education, because I couldn't just ask my parents to pay for college. I had to get
like
scholarships and grants, and the only way I could do that was, to be
But you
intelligent.
knew that at a young age. Like, that's commendable, because not a lot of teens realize oh no, I need to better myself. I need to get out of here. A lot of teens, they usually fall victim to not circumstances, I don't want to say,
you almost get stuck going back home.
Yeah, you get complacent, and you see what's going on around you, and that's all you know. You feel like,
Right. I mean, again, my parents were a great help. Right. My father's emphasis on education was huge. But yeah, no, I think I wanted to, live. I wanted to go live in New York City. I wanted to go travel. I wanted to go, and I knew that I couldn't do that without.
What age did you realize that?
Probably the beginning of high school. Like, that's when things.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
When I was like, yeah, I can't stay here. I got to
Okay.
get out of here. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because even now, when we go back, like when you go back home to your hometown, like what do you always tell me?
I hate this place.
Yeah, no, could you say I love this place?
I say I got a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm from Yonkers, New York. Like, it's, every city obviously got a good side and a bad side,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
We didn't grow up on the good side. Yeah. So, like, even today I was driving through there and I was talking to my boy Dawood. Shout out to Dawood too. And we're just kind of voice noting back and forth. And in between, we're talking about podcasting. And I'm like, man, this city's so depressing.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
I drove through Getty Square and I'm just like, oh, man. And you thank God because not a lot of people come out of that.
Right. Right. Especially too, you've made for our family huge strides. And, now we live, not for nothing, but we live in the sticks. We live in the middle of nowhere. And, we're very lucky with everything that we have and we're very blessed.
By the grace of God.
By the grace of God and your hard work. I think that also.
Our hard work.
Oh.
You like that, fellas? Always give her credit.
But honestly, like there's a big difference. Even when I go back home to see my parents and my family, it's easy. It's comfortable. It's so and then I'm like, yeah, no, it's time to go. I want to go back home.
100%.
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I visit my friends, and sometimes flashbacks come,
Right.
and my anxiety goes up, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Can we meet somewhere else, please?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not all negative,
But at the same time, it taught you things,
right.
And I appreciate that as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It gave me and you, I'm sure, the work ethic, that drive,
Absolutely.
So I'm definitely appreciative.
And what we give our kids in return because of that, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Speaking of kids, we are going to have our first son together in about 3 more months, God willing.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
I think it's more nerves.
Nervous?
Of course. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, we're older too, and I think that makes me more nervous than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I've also, you spend your whole life being so selfish, and then you have to. Jamal has 2 beautiful kids that I consider my own, but I met them when they were older versus now having a child that is completely dependent on us in every single way, and I think
aspect.
Yeah, and trying not to screw that up.
Yeah.
I think is nerve-wracking a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Is that right? What do you feel? I can't imagine it's all excitement and no fear.
No, of course.
Even though you've done this before from the beginning, you know.
I got mad kids.
No,
I'm joking.
No, I mean, thank God,
No,
our children are beautiful and successful and happy, and
it's crazy to start over, but it's also a blessing because I'm gonna just say it. When I met Crystal,
don't tell that story.
All right, I'll save it for another time. But I will say she was a tough cookie. She was still is Miss Independent, And fellas, you'll notice, you'll know when you've met the one for you, or the one you want to spend your life with. Like I knew. In times I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just head over heels, and then there'll be another moment where I'm like, no, this is her. But one of the times I'm like, am I just head over heels? Crystal and I were hanging out, right? Well, for one, you were always very adamant about how you never wanted to get married. So the fact that you even are sitting across from me with my ring on your finger,
Well,
it's like, check that off my bucket
okay,
list.
but you weren't proving a point. I hope you actually.
Well, it started out as a bet. No, what?
I mean, I think I grew up where I had to be so independent, and I realized I don't need anyone.
Okay.
And
Wow.
no, and you should
The
never.
women in comments gonna go crazy. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, think about it. You should never marry someone because you need to marry
No,
them.
of course not. Of course not. No, no.
And I also never saw. Even my parents were amazing parents, but they didn't have the best relationship. So I didn't have a.
I mean, nobody's perfect.
Yeah, but it was very like I was like I'm okay. I could do this by myself.
Okay.
I don't need to do this.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was very like strong on that. I remember that one time we were hanging out at your apartment, and we're talking, and
I was
Chris
smoking
was
a
just
cigarette, wasn't I? Yeah, I was smoking a cigarette. I think we had been out drinking.
We were.
We were out at the bar.
We was out at the bars in White Plains.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at you, and I'm like, hey, you ever see yourself married one day? I never forget you. Like, married? Oof, no.
I remember I turned around, I was like, hell no.
Hell no. You're like, never.
Never.
Oh,
no,
my
come
God.
on.
That is the last thing. Right?
But
and I'm sitting there like, right, me
never.
neither. Yeah.
But
What's
that was
that?
the beauty of our relationship, was that I could be so honest with you. I was never able
Oh, you
to,
were honest.
Yeah, I know.
You were honest. You were very
I was never able to fully be myself with anybody. So to actually be able to have that with you was.
I don't think that had anything to do with being yourself. I think I touched a topic that you were just like,
no,
what
I'll tell you why that does have to do with being myself, because as a
Okay.
woman, we're supposed to be this soft, gentle. I can't, my entire family, females in my family have planned their wedding. That's why when our wedding came around and everyone's like, well, what do you want for this? I don't know. I never thought about this. I've never thought about this. I've never even dreamt about this.
Right.
So I didn't have any ideas of what my wedding should look like when everyone else has things completely outlined and lined up,
How did you not like
not want to?
Well, not want to as a woman,
Right.
because like you just said, it's well, maybe not in today's times, but
like inherently
in those times, it was every woman's dream.
Yeah, and culturally for us, I mean,
Right?
that was a huge thing too.
Getting married.
And having babies, lots of babies.
Oh, wow.
Like you should have been married. We should have been married years and years and years ago.
Right.
In comparison to us now, but my focus was my career. I'll take care of everybody. I'll let everybody, they can have that. I'm okay without it.
And you're perfectly fine with that.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Until, and even when I realized I wanted to spend my entire life with you, I never, not once did I think, I hope he gives me a ring.
But that I want to touch on too. Continue, but we're going to backtrack to that.
But I wanted to spend my life with you. And I knew that my life was not to sound corny, but like it wasn't complete unless you were there.
Really?
Yeah. And
no, I mean, sometimes like me.
Yeah.
For what?
Yes, you.
You do so much better.
No, I mean, and that's exactly what it was. You were my better, and that you are my better. And that was I didn't have to be married to you. I didn't need a signature. I didn't need papers. I didn't need diamonds or a white dress. That was all bonus in comparison. But especially because I never saw that. That was
I truly felt blessed because of that. Because you were very adamant about like never, ever. I'd rather walk on hot coal barefoot.
No, come on.
Before I ever. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean,
get it.
it was honestly, I mean, even if I went back right now, I wouldn't be like, I don't think I would change that thought process, because that mindset brought me in my career into the person I am.
I respect that.
And I also didn't marry the person I was with at 21.
Right.
Thank God, because I thought that was supposed to be what I did, right?
Right.
You know, so if I had done that because that was the norm. Culturally, and even when we were 21, like a lot of people would graduate college and they got married. And you know what I mean? And that just
depend on where you grew up too.
I guess, yeah.
Where I grew up, like.
Oh, right, exactly. It was a little bit different.
Marriage was
sense.
foreign.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You if you went to college, that was great.
Right.
You definitely had a baby by 21 though.
But that's yeah.
So, you know, yeah, man. So no, but I did want to touch on you saying about the whole like you didn't need a ring thing.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm gonna be honest. That was one of the times I knew. Not because you didn't need a ring, and I'm like, oh, I could save money. Like, no. But
I'm financially smart too.
Yeah, that man. Listen, I kissed the ground 100 times. Like I say, like there were. Put it this way. You'll hear a lot of females mostly talk about, oh, I hope I get this type of ring. And no, if I get married, this is the ring I want. And
right.
It got to be Vera Wang, yeah. And it got to be this. And,
yeah.
And I remember you got us these, like, it was like rubber bands for
the silicone rings.
The silicone rings from Amazon.
Yeah.
And I remember you wore it like proudly, you know, and that was one of the times I felt like God was saying, see, told you. I remember praying and I asked God, like, if she's for me, show me, you know, and we were on our way to Jamaica. And I forgot how the conversation came about, but somehow we were just talking,
mm-hmm.
and I think either you couldn't find your silicone ring, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I seen you like really having a fit, like, where's my ring?
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you, and you know, like you was really serious. And when you found it, like you were like relieved.
Relieved, yeah.
And you put it on and you used to check for mine. Like, yeah. Where's your ring?
Yeah.
And you were good.
100%. And I'd still be good.
And I'm like, yeah. I ran to Zales.
No, come on.
I ran to Zales. You know, because you don't find that. It meant a lot to me that you were so adamant about the symbolism of that
right
silicone ring.
Yeah. And I think for me, the reason why I would check for yours too is because I always it took us a long time to get to where we were. To get to where we are now, of course, but you know, getting to where we were was a roller coaster, to say the least.
Wow.
It's always fun. Yeah. But and so when we got to that place of I'm spending my life with you, you're spending your life with me, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Mm-hmm. Like I felt very passionate about that. Yeah. I don't know.
100%. Yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
You know, hence the reason why together we blend, right?
And there it is.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess maybe we could leave it there for now.
Okay.
Please, if you got any value from this, it would definitely help if you guys please comment. Let us know what you think. Once
Don't
again,
hurt our feelings too much.
yeah, but be honest though, because we accept criticism, constructive criticism,
No negativity.
right? And please subscribe, please share, and we hope to see you guys on the next episode.
Hopefully, ask questions.
Yeah.
If you have any questions for us, any topics you want us to touch on,
definitely free to answer.
Yeah.
We'll put the email in the show notes, and